Content warning. The following show contains smoking, discussions of fictitious violence, a few opinions that might make some people feel relatively attacked, and of course, a few things about the guy talking. Either way, viewer discretion is advised. And hello, everybody. Oh my god, it's so loud. Oh, everything is so loud. And welcome to the dark side of the room. I am Solar Gray, the cinematic sorcerer, and welcome to the dark side of the room. This is the show where we talk about games, we talk about life, we talk about so many things that people want to talk about and never knew that it applied to their hobbies and all of that stuff. But with all that being said, I want to thank you for showing up and all that jazz. Now, I'm making a few improvements to a whole lot of things, and fortunately, I got a lot of the stuff that I was missing when the studio went bottoms up. So, now that I've got all that stuff going down, I would like you guys to take note that if you guys want to get a hold of me or something like that, feel free, and I mean that, feel free to reach out at backinthedeck@gmail.com. That's BACKINTHEDECK at gmail.com. You can also reach out to me. Well, you could reach out to me on X right now, but I'll tell you honestly, I'm going over to Blue Sky. But you can always find me over on Instagram, also at backinthedeck. And of course, if you are still part of that wretched hive of scum and villainy known as Facebook, then you can reach out to me, either directly or by joining Deckers on the Book. That is our open, I guess you can say, community, our little cadre, our little set of folks that are doing the thing. And of course, that is definitely the way to do that. Now, before I continue to go on with the show, I gotta give a shout out to our sponsors, which are you people. Okay, that's who our sponsors are. We stay alive through your subscriptions here on Twitch, through the Patreon, through direct donations, and of course right now we are actually running a GoFundMe. Let me just put that right here in the chat. I know I can put it in the chat here on Twitch. Let me try it on YouTube real quick. And that GoFundMe is to keep the studio alive. So, with that being said, let's get into the show. We are going to be talking about quite a few things today. And if we're very, very lucky, our co-host will be jumping into my lap to say, hey, you've been in here for hours. What have you been doing all this time? I want my daddy back. I want my daddy back. Yeah, that's right. I know. She's just literally staring at me right now. Just expect it. Yeah, come on. Nope. And she doesn't like being picked up ever since she got into a fight with some sort of creature, so I really don't press her on that one. Anyway, guys, we have so many things to talk about, so many things to do, and of course, I've got one more set of links that I'm going to put over here. No, 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 I don't want that there. No, no, close that. Close that app. I've got one more set of links that I got to put here in the chat, and that's all of the ways that you can support us through donations, either directly or on the Patreon or all that stuff. And that is right here. Hang on. Yep. And push the button, Frank. There we go. All right. So, yeah, that is totally a thing that's going on with all of that stuff that's there. I know so many different ways, but you know what? When I was growing up, I watched a lot of PBS, and every once in a while, they had these drives where for 3 days, you had celebrities singing songs and all that stuff, asking you to call in with your donations, because this is made possible by viewers like you. So, first question I have to ask you is, do you guys like the new mic placement? And do I sound okay? I was feeling a little claustrophobic the way that all this stuff was coming down, so I had to fix that really quickly. And, yeah, oh, look at that. I don't have to, hit anything in order to do that, and I like being able to talk to you guys like this because I do a lot of gesticulation, and oh my god, those were terrible ways to say everything that just said. Major shout out to the Perkysaurus, that's right, thank you so much for popping in the way that, 2 days in a row, this is pretty awesome. And, of course, Daryl, what's up? Yeah, I have been sounding clear. Cool. All right, this is all good. So, let's talk about a couple of things that are real, okay? And I don't mean real, like I'm not going to be getting into the the long-term psychological effects in your adulthood about having narcissistic parents. That's for the meeting after the show down by the docks. No, I want to talk about, first off, yesterday, all right? Yesterday, I had a good show. I want to thank you guys for helping me have such a good show yesterday. That is fantastic. And with that, I wanted to kind of continue the conversation because everything you guys had to say and all that stuff. Hang on, I'm live on Twitch right now. Check it out. I have to learn how not to have these banana fingers. Twitch.tv/BID_P. Oh man, when I was a kid, I really used to like memorizing codes. I'm not joking, actually. I'm literally that guy. And so I talked a lot yesterday, and I mean this. I talked a lot yesterday about stuff concerning tournament play, competitive play, culture, and all that stuff. And part of what I want to do here is I want to deconstruct a lot of the stuff that I've heard over my years in playing games, being a gamer, being part of different communities. And I want to address that kind of stuff today. All right. Now, I want to set you guys back to the Wayback Machine, say to 2009. 2009. I was hang on, BID_P. Yeah, I hope. Is that the right link? I think it's the right link, and yeah, looks like me. That's right. Cool. So like I was saying there, What was I saying? Oh, yeah. I was introduced. Um, I was introduced to a bunch of people as a former circus performer, and I decided I wanted to give Burning Man another shot because I'd been there a few times, but never as a fire performer. Okay, and hang on, is interested? I'm streaming live about stuff. Yeah. Shift ba ba. Um yeah, like I was saying. And I ended up joining the Burning Man community. And I've made some really interesting friends over the course of the years. And one of them, that I still talk to this day, had an interesting conversation with me concerning the definition of words. Okay? And this is something that I really, 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 um, stick close to, mostly because of my neurospice. But that was one of the first places I really started to see it was the Burning Man community. And as I've gotten older, I've noticed, and I said first places I noticed it, not the first places I heard it, okay? But as I've gotten older, I've seen the Burning Man community, the photographers community, the sneakerhead community, and for a lot of us, the gaming community, the D&D community. However, I learned a long time ago that the definition of community is a group of people that commune. Now, let's take a look at the word commune. Oh, yes, yes, yes. We are doing communing. A group of people living together and sharing possessions and responsibilities. Second definition here is, of course, being blocked by the chat. Let's see here. The smallest French territorial division of administrative purposes, and of course the group that sees municipal government in Paris. So yeah, hang on. That yes, to commune. All right. So let's look up community. There we go. A group of people living in the same place or having a particular characteristic in common. A feeling of fellowship. Hang on. So many definitions here. Let's see. A particular area or place considered together with its inhabitants. A body of nations or states unified by common interests. The people of a district or county considered collectively, especially in the context of social values and responsibilities. And of course, feeling fellowship as a result of sharing common attitudes, interests, and goals. Now, it's very interesting because that last definition, a group of people that share a common set of interest and goals. So by the loosest definition, there are very many communities. Again, Burning Man community, D&D community, Warhammer community, what other juggling community, musician community, just the black community, the LGBT community, and all that stuff. And by the definition of the words, there are bunches of people that share a whole bunch of stuff in common. However, the functioning social definition of community, as I've come to understand it over the years that I've been living on this rock, has much more to do with communing, as in spending time together, forming bonds, and having each other's back. I hate speaking in terms. Essentially, being available for emotional support, being available for sometimes physical support, being friends or what one would call these days chosen family. But I was talking with this friend, and she was saying that there really isn't a Burning Man community that's out there as much as there have been Burning Man scenes where it's good to be seen. It's you're not part of a community as much as you are part of a collective group of people that are hey Zero Fox X, welcome by the way. You're not as much a community member that contributes and people don't contribute. More like people go to a nightclub and go, look, I'm here at a nightclub, aren't I cool? Now, I want to bring this up because we talk about games within that same context. Now, there's the D&D online community that consists of the famous people, Dimension 20, Critical Role, XP to level 3, those guys. And then there's the online or there's the D&D YouTube community like XP to level 3 and Jin the DM and a lot of the D&D YouTubers like Dungeons and Discourse and those guys. And I'm sure they spend time with each other when they can. They're kind of in groups. But what I've come to notice is that there is much more emotional nourishment from clubs. Now, what is the difference between a club and a community? Well, when you look at it from a grand scale, everyone, Seth, yeah, everyone that plays Dungeons and Dragons is part of the D&D community as a whole. But do you know people? Can you call up? Like, I see a bunch of looking for group flyers because I go to bunches of gaming stores. But I see that I have this idea that if there are a bunch of looking for group flyers, that means there are people in the community that are looking for groups of people to play with. Okay? And the same goes down for, say, Magic the Gathering or, whatever games that you play. So I want to pose you guys the question. Okay? I want to pose you guys the question for real. I mean, for real. Keeping it 100. HUNN space capital NED. 100. Which do you guys find more fulfilling? Like, do you guys have a community or do you guys have a club? Now, honestly, the difference between a community and club is in scale and scope. So do you have your particular group of gamers that you're around, the ones that you play with, and in your game club, do you guys play a variety of games? Or do you just play a particular game? Or do you have a different club for each type of game or even each game that you play? That's something that I really want to post out there to see where people are coming from on it. I myself, as an individual, I'm all over the place, and my tables are open to anybody who's not an obnoxious, bullying person. Okay, I do my best not to use profanity on the air. It's bad enough that I use tobacco in case kids are watching, and if kids are watching, this is not a cool habit to start. Okay, it's actually pretty messed up. So, as I was saying, so yeah, I want to put that out there towards you guys, and seriously, talk to me in the chat. I am so willing to talk about that. So, with that being said, I want to move on to the next segment because that's the short segment. Now, I want to talk about something that is very, very clear and apparent for gamers over 35. Okay, and if you're not over 35, but you say work a labor job, this might actually apply to you. Actually, this is something that might actually that I would love for you guys to weigh in on. And that is the 1 hour game stamina. What do I mean? Well, in the world that we live in right now, everything is very, very fast. You have to have a good hook. You have to have like the perfect thumbnail. The first 5 seconds have got to be amazing. Or people change the channel. They start scrolling on their phone. They do whatever they can to fill up their time. And cynical people are like, hey, people got short attention spans nowadays, blah, blah, blah. But that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is what comes after, okay? One of my close friends and I, we don't play games together because he only has a 1 hour game attention span. And most of the time, it takes more than an hour to teach someone how to play a game, especially the games I play having to do with minis or world conquest or anything like that. In fact, and I'm going to be bringing up this game again later on when we talk about dead games, because this game is so not dead, so not dead. But it takes more than an hour to play Monopoly. So playing a game with this particular friend of mine, unless it's a live action RPG, is really difficult because after an hour he's ready to do something else. Anything from yard work to carpentry to masonry, to building props for movies that will never be filmed. He's got a whole bunch of hobbies. And I get that. I definitely get that. Let's see here. Yep. Let's see. Mainly in the club scene these days. Hang on. Let me fix this here so that I can... there we go. I'd say mainly in the club scene these days. I was some part of a larger community with fighting games, but they have disappointed me in recent years. Well, there's a lot of disappointment going on right now, Daryl. A lot of disappointment, but we're here to talk about games. Yeah, games and good things in life, not disappointment. But I find as I get older, I have much less stamina for a lot of games that I'm into. Oh, hey! Perksaurus! A miniature skirmish game with my friends. It takes 1 to 3 hours once a week. I have a different group of friends I play video games with. Excuse me. Very cool. So you would actually say that that you would have, by what I understand, is two different clubs. You've got your miniature skirmish game club and your video game club. Even though the members may switch back and forth, but definitely have the people that you do those certain activities with. Is that what I'm to understand? Now, as I've gotten older, like I said, I give game demos all over Los Angeles. It used to be all over the country, but, I don't make as much money at this as I used to. So, working on it, though, still trying to spread the community, so like and share, all that stuff, So, with all that being said, what was I saying? Oh, yes. So I find that, I talk a lot about miniatures games. I do love miniatures games. But I'm sure a lot of you guys that have been watching for a long time have noticed a lot of the games that I pay a lot of attention to are falling more into the skirmish category with lightweight rules. I don't want to say simple. I don't want to say easy. I want to say lightweight, like one-page rules. There's not a whole lot of lawyer-based rule stack shenanigans in a lot of stuff that I play. I mean, I just watched earlier today. I watched a 2.5 hour video that was in-depth delving into the new Eldari Codex. And there's just shenanigan after shenanigan. You use these tokens with these stratagems, with this timing, with these spells. And I like a little bit of that, but like I said when I was learning 40K, that game is so crunchy, I chipped a couple of teeth on the quick start rules. Which I'm down for playing stuff like that because I am a fast player. However, I find that when I talk to people who play even 1,000 point games of Warhammer 40K or 200 tons of mechs and battle tech, the games can take 2 to 3 hours. Like seriously, that's just one of the things. And most game stores that I go to, much like my home, they have the tall gaming table. You guys know the ones I'm talking about, right? They're made out of wood, and they're like, I honestly think the tabletop is about 5.5 feet off the ground. Um, because they're made for standing around it, feeling like a general, going, hmm, hmm. Um, the friendly store that gets a shout out at least twice an episode, Guildhouse Games, were nice enough to put in bar chairs. And by bar chairs, I mean the ones whose seats are about 4 feet in the air. Because, yeah, after about one opponent's turn in Warhammer 40k or War Machine, my back is going, dude, you are pushing 50. All right, this ain't what you're doing. So there's a lot of reality in the fact that once you start getting older, you start losing the gumption that you had for the 9 hour 10,000 point game of Warhammer 40k, or the 1,000 point game of War Machine, or the 5 round mini tournament of Magic with you and your friends that put together only common decks with a minimum card count of 150 cards per deck. You know what I'm talking about? Oh no, just me? Oh, okay. You know, there comes a big draining of stamina as you get older. And one of the things I want to put out there are some of the solutions that I found to that. I say the B word, and a lot of people go, "No, it breaks my immersion, which is take a break. When I give demonstrations for games, and every time I give a demo, I don't do all of the shenanigans that's possible. I like to man, yeah, you guys are so like, yeah, painting 40k then playing, I guess now. Okay, we'll get to the hobbying part as well, because this also comes down into that attention span I'm talking about. The BMP were, yeah, the beer and pretzel games, and a lot of people will swear by the idea that no, 40k is a beer and pretzels game, not a Dungeons and Dragons is a beer and pretzels game. And I'm like, yeah, there tends to be beer, pretzels, even pizza at D&D, but it's still a day-long thing or an evening-long thing, But I'm finding that as I get older, and I'm one of the youngest people in two of my gaming groups, I'm actually one of the youngest people. And a lot of my friends, they're up there, they're in their 60s, and most folks, especially if you live out in cheese country or any other part of the Midwest, y'all might see that a lot of the people that play the games with you guys are laborers. We're talking carpenters, plumbers, electricians, welders, metalworker, you and me both, Zan. You and me both. Hey, Dominic, what is going on? So yeah, if you guys are from the working class like I am, most of your friends, or you yourself, spend a lot of time beating your body to the ground, so there's not a lot of physical stamina for all day game things, and if you guys are in your 30s or 35, in your mid to late 30s, and you guys have one of those horrible jobs in a cubicle with no windows where you're staring at a screen all day and you're forced to think, because if you smile, you get in trouble for not being serious about your job, even if you work at a place that makes games and toys like video games and dolls. I don't get it. But that means you spend most of your week expending mental energy. Two different kinds of exhaustion, both exhaustion. Okay? So the whole idea of getting together and being strategic can be a little daunting. So, what are some of the solutions? Well, number one, when I give game demos or I'm hosting a game, even when I'm playing with some of the people that know games better than I do, um, or we know games equally, I tend to judge the pace of the game. Okay, I judge the pace of the game. I would love to say we take a break every 15 minutes, but that could be 4 turns. That could be 2 turns. I had one War Machine group about 7 years ago that would spend half the game smoking marijuana and then not thinking about what they were going to do until it was their turn. I personally found that infuriating, but I'm in therapy about things like that. Hey, if you guys can hear it, I'm not sure if you can, but we got the ghetto bird flying, so they're not gonna catch me looking over there. Um, but what I like to do is I like to schedule a break. If it's a skirmish game, at the end of round two. Okay, at the end of round two, let's take a break. Let's stretch our legs. Let's get a soda. Let me run outside and commit slow suicide with tobacco. Let's just get away from the table, um, so that we can recenter and go into turns 3, 4, 5 pretty fresh. And this is big considering I'm building up to film battle reports. And real talk, guys, I have been trying to record goldfish games. A goldfish game is a game that you play by yourself, with Halo Flashpoint, to make sure I got my cameras in the right place and I can do all that stuff. And still, yeah, it can take 3 times as long to film a game as it does to play a game. So, I'm getting my club members up to spec, though. That's something that I'm actually into. Excuse me. Oh, had to belch a little bit. So, solution one that I love implementing is at the end of every other turn, just take 5. Take 5. Go to the bathroom, grab another slice of pizza, answer the question to your guy because yes, there's Mountain Dew, but he's in the bar getting drunk. And take a break because your hobby doesn't have to be your job. As we talked about yesterday, it doesn't have to be your all encompassing thing. Okay? Now, I am completely empathetic to the idea that when you're playing a game, okay, when you're playing a game sometime, taking a break might make you forget your plan or you'll lose the momentum and stuff like this. But yesterday we talked about casual gaming versus competitive gaming, or more to the point, pickup gaming versus athletic gaming, okay? And so all of these things are something that comes in for athletic gaming or for pickup gaming. Because I'll be honest, I've run tournaments in my time, back in my day when I was running tournaments at game stores. I was a product champion for a few things. And, yeah, pies! We used to make pies! No, way back in the early 2000s when I was a tournament judge. Having your opponent take a break when you're playing a tournament game, and most of the time it's timed, can seem like some not quite cool shenanigans, But when you're just playing a game with your friends, hanging out at the game store, it's Saturday afternoon or Tuesday night, and this is what you do instead of watching sports or instead of book club or instead of a bowling league, just, yeah, take a couple of minutes and be like, yeah, what's going on? Because I can tell you honestly, even to those who do yoga 10 minutes a day, as you get older, okay, as you get older and time moves on, holding that kind of space and having that kind of concentration on something with other people that has a condition of winning or losing is also more mental energy, you know? Shouts out to all my people that work in offices, from filling out TPS reports to video editing, um, because that is a lot of concentration and problem solving. And so the idea of playing a game when you're doing that kind of thing and something that's not set quite on autopilot, um, it is a little bit more work. Now, make no mistake, I'm not throwing shade at video game players whatsoever. Okay, I want to make that absolutely clear. Um, However, video games have a different involvement and a different type of energy that comes down to playing or not playing, as it were. Okay? What exactly do I mean at such things? Well, it's possible to log in. It is possible to log in to a video game. Well, let me tell you a story. Good friend of mine. Last time I had a video game anyone can play was Grand Theft Auto 3. I had it on my PC at home. And my friend, after having a really bad day, he worked at, I think, a tuxedo shop or something. And after having a very bad day of customer service, he would come to my house and he would log on, or, I wasn't playing online, this was a closed system. And he would have me type in the invincible code, and he would spend his time picking a type of person that would be running around in GTA 3 and sniping them from a water tower. And I'm like, should I be concerned? Is this a cry for help? But that's not a question that you ask your friend who's grinding his teeth. You just kind of go, okay, if that's what it is, then it is what it is. All right, we'll just keep going on that little front. And but the point that I'm making in that is that he did not care about running the missions, solving the crimes. He was literally just running around shooting people, running around shooting people. That's just what he wanted to do. He was just blowing off steam, doing that. There really wasn't a whole lot of externally imposed puzzles to solve, missions to complete. He could just run around, do stuff like that. I remember I specifically got that game because I liked the soundtrack, and I didn't know how to go into the back end of the disc and take all the music, so I would turn the game on, drive a car around, park it somewhere, and let the radio go, because I really, really liked all the talk shows and all that stuff. So that was very much a real thing that I did. But that's not exactly something that you can do if you're playing a game with other people. Okay? Imagine you sit down with your friends to play Uno, and somebody just pops on their headphones and starts listening to an Uno inspired playlist on Spotify while they have cards in their hand. They don't want to be dealt out, but they're just listening to music. That's not really a whole lot of fun. Now, some people will call that rude, okay? But I'm not here to judge. What I'm saying is there's a different level of allowance between between solo video game and playing a tabletop game in the presence of other people, with other people interacting with you. But that, in and of itself, can take a lot of energy. That is something that's real. I mean, it can take a lot of energy to do. And I get it. I understand it. I have seen it over and over and over again. Trust me, there have been a lot of people in my gaming clubs that I haven't really liked, but I've tolerated. And that takes more energy. And also understand, and this is me being really empathetic, to say that I have always understood. Hey, what's going on, Panama Jacks? I've always understood that there were folks out here in these streets that are very introverted, and honestly, not just introverted, some folks are misanthropists. Some people really don't like being around other people, but they do it because isolation is in the Geneva Convention as a war crime. So, for my introverts out there, I totally get it. Being around other people drain your batteries really, really quick. So, when it comes down to doing a lot of these activities, there's nothing wrong with taking a break. Okay? Nothing wrong. What I like to do is, like I said, at about the end of round 2, I take a break, I reset my brain to go in like round 3 is the new beginning of the game, and I'm coming in media res. And this is something that I encourage a lot of my friends to do when they only have a 1 hour tolerance for games. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. If you guys go through something like this, let me know in the chat. What do you guys do? What are some of the things that you guys do when it comes to attention span in gaming? Now, one of the things I notice, and this is me talking to the grognards out there, all the old guys. I don't understand. My kid can spend 9 hours on them TikToks and 18 hours on them Instagrams. And I'm like, okay, let me explain to you this. Every 30 seconds to 2 minutes, it's something new with a completely different set of sounds, completely different visuals, completely different people. It's like when you were a kid in the 80s and you would just channel surf for 45 minutes. Oh, Mom, there's nothing on. Click, 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 until your dad came in and was like, pick something. Just put something on a channel and watch it, okay? Just watch it. It's the same thing. It's the same thing for a new generation. Our brains are trained on the daily to work super, 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 super fast, and to slow it down, to calm it down, takes training, effort, and practice. And a lot of folks don't quite understand that because they forgot what it was like when we could think really fast, because your brain slows down when you're not looking. And it always feels normal until one day you're like, I used to remember that. I don't know, but the bird did that. Yeah, I used to, that thing, that I gotta feed it every once in a while. It makes no, kitten. Yeah, that's what it was. It was a kitten. It happens. It's real. So, real talk, when it comes down to that kind of thing, yeah, it really is a true thing. And when you're used to moving so fast, sometimes it takes breaks to slow down. Other times it takes breaks to catch up. But what I'm saying is, there is absolutely nothing wrong with taking a break, even when it's something that you enjoy. Because the guy that taught me how to teach, actually the guy and the 3 women that taught me how to teach, all taught me that the best way to make sure that people don't learn anything is to tell them everything. You can't just throw a whole haystack in front of them and say, hey, there's a needle in there. And you definitely can't throw a whole stack of needles in front of them and say one of them's the correct one. People's minds just go, too much, cannot compute, 404, error, cannot load. You know what I mean? And I get it. I get it 100%. I get it all the way across the board. So taking stuff in smaller chunks is definitely a way to learn faster, have more fun, okay? And to make the thing that you do not a chore or a job, okay? Now let's talk about hobbying. Hey, what's going on, Panama Jacks? Yeah. So, Seriously? Hey, Citizen Splicer, what's going on? Now let's talk about hobbying, all right? Now, as you guys know, I'm real open about my neurospice, all right? I got some paprika in there. I got a little cayenne. I definitely got salt and pepper. I also got a little bit of cardamom every once in a while. I've got that neurospice. And that means that sometimes, oftentimes, when I start doing something, the whole world falls away. There is nothing else. There is only me and this Rubik's Cube. The house on fire, there is no fire. There is Rubik's Cube. Okay? And nothing does that to me more intensely than manual activity. Okay? Sometimes labor, but when I say manual, I mean manual as in manos, as in things that you do with your hands. Okay? A lot of people sit down now. Again, we have painting tutorials on this channel, and there's going to be more as my time becomes more mine. So, but you guys are going to see the painting tutorial live videos are sometimes very hard for me and a lot of other painters out there. Why? Hey, look, I'm painting. I'm interacting with my audience. Or am I? Look at all of that dead air as my brush pushes paint around a miniature. Look at all that dead air while I'm kit bashing. Look at all the stuff I'm not saying while I'm pin drilling a metal model from the early 2000s. You see what I mean? And I know, especially when I'm by myself, it's really important for me to remember these breaks because, as you guys know, I've been... Oh, cooking? Yeah, seriously, Zan. You could just be sitting up. You could be making fudge and look up and find that you've been stirring for about 45 minutes. You know? And, you know, seriously, none of this is euphemism, guys. You got look it up. You got to pretty much always stir when you're making fudge. It's just stirring and stirring and stirring. There is an egg dessert that I really like that also requires a whole lot of whisking like that. But I forgot what it was called, and I made one. Sauvignon. Yeah, Sauvignon. Fantastic dessert, by the way, but so much whipping. You know, so much like Devo lives rent-free in my head forever, not just because I, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah, that's Zen State. Thank you for bringing that up, Panama Jacks. Seriously. A Zen state can come about, and next thing you know, it's been 7 hours. And if you guys are spicy like me, within that 7 hours, you've forgotten to eat. I know so many times when I sit down to edit videos or when I'm practicing music, time just goes away. It's gone, you know? And setting up these breaks, you know, I'm not going to lie, it sounds weird. It sounds very weird, but when it comes to the manual stuff, especially since I'm pushing 50, and my lower back is going, you ain't 20 no more, man. Such as when I'm painting, when I'm sculpting. As you guys know, I've got the Flat Pack Realms campaign up, and that requires a lot of taping and a lot of hand laminating and a lot of testing to make sure stuff is going. And I think my Proxon despises me. And I'm just sitting up there. The bells. You know, that's pretty much what I'm like, because I look up and it's been 6 or 7 hours. I've been in a very uncomfortable position, so now my back hurts. Now I haven't eaten in 5 hours. In fact, I haven't eaten in so long that the grocery stores that I like going to, because I don't live in a food desert. I live at the bottom of the food hierarchy, meaning most of the grocery stores that are in walking distance of my place, one, aren't places you want to walk to after dark. Not because of danger, but because of solicitation from people asking for your money as you walk down the street. And then once you get there, it doesn't have the highest quality of ingredients for most things. So, you know, but By the time I look up, I'm like, oh my God, it's 10:45, and the grocery store I like closes at 11:15, and it's 20 minutes away. Can I do it? You know? Um, so I literally have to set a timer for myself. I'm dead serious. I have to set a timer to stand up, let my knees rest, stretch my back, stretch my hips, and check to see if I need to go to the bathroom like every 2.5 hours, especially when I start working. Because if you guys don't do these kinds of things, your hobby then becomes just as arduous as the job that you have your hobby to forget about. Okay? This is the biggest thing, y'all. Because let's face it, we are nerds. We read comic books, we study things excessively, we play games, we build models, we do dioramas. We spend a lot of our hard earned money making up for the childhood that we wanted, but our parents either couldn't or wouldn't provide it. Um, but when that activity becomes just as or more important than the job that funds it, and you start missing out on other things in life, or, and this is the part that I would warn all of you guys about, it takes up so much of your life, you forget the rest of it. And don't get me wrong, I can build Warhammer 40K teams with my index cards, and the new data sheet that has all the stuff. I can build teams for days, and I'm talking teams and teams and teams and teams and teams that I will never play. Okay, I can put together combinations of stuff from factions that I haven't 3D printed or haven't bought. I can put together so many different combinations from just the figures that I do play with the 4 factions that I own. Okay, fine. The 9 factions that I own, and I could do that over and over and over again. Next thing I know, the sun's coming up, and there went my day off. I didn't touch grass. I barely played with my dog. I made sure that she got fed, but I barely spent any time with her. You know? Um, and so, essentially, breaks are the key to balance. Taking breaks. I'm not calling you out, Kelsey, all right? I'm confessing. um, you know, Taking breaks are really big and important pieces to your hobbies, your games, everything else that you're doing. I mean, I'll tell you guys. One of the donations that I got to work on Flat Pack Realms and to keep Back in the Deck going was a laser cutter. And I spent 2 days learning the software to the laser cutter, doing tests, and at the time, though the laser cutter is out here in the studio, the computer out here in the studio was fried. I think I had a problem with my old motherboard. It might have had a short, and it was just eating through power supplies. So I found a new motherboard, or I found a motherboard from the same model computer, I think on OfferUp or Facebook Marketplace for $20, and I rebuilt. That's why I can do the podcasts again. But before, I had to do all the art on one of the computers in the house, and then bring the art out here to the studio, push the button out here in the studio, and then run back in to make sure that the software was, I was going back and forth. It's like playing ping pong by yourself. And those 2 days went very quickly. So very quickly, because I had to learn how to use the software for the machine. I also had to take a crash course in Inkscape and learn what SVG files were, and learn I still haven't learned how to do SVG files in the software that I use to sculpt some of the 3D prints that I made when I make like tokens and objective markers, because I can export stuff in those files as SVGs, but they're in 3 dimensions, and I just don't understand what those are for. And I'm like, I'm just working with cardboard, guys, And when I was doing the initial cutting for Flat Pack Realms, on my friend's laser cutter, who lives 20 miles from me, by the way, I got to his house at 1. I looked up, it was 9. My fingers were going numb. I was cold. I hadn't eaten. I'm like, whoa, gotta get back. Again, neurospice. That's the paprika. That's the garlic powder. That's the onion powder. You know, so having not just to leave notes for myself, but to set alarms. That's just one of the things I have to do. And whatever it is that you have to do to keep yourself grounded, I'm going to say this. There are no judgment calls. It's something you got to do. I have a lot of friends that do things like take meds for certain conditions, and a lot of them feel bad. A lot of them feel like they're less than or anything like that. And I'm like, dude, do you feel like less of a person when you have to take a laxative because you ate too much cheese? You know, do you feel like less of a person when you need an ankle brace because you sprained your ankle while running at 4K? I mean, seriously. You know, these tools exist for a reason. So use the tools. You know, use the tools. Make sure that you have an internal understanding that no matter how good that Zen state feels, or how easy it is to slip into, it is a component in the life that we live, not the entirety of the life that we live. Okay? Wow. Let's see. Hey, Zan. Being from Wisconsin, I would feel like less of a person if I had to take a laxative because I ate too much tea. Okay, fine. The Gatorade that you drink because you're hungover and you drank too much beer. You know, I'm relatively lactose intolerant, so I don't have to take a pill for cheese, but I do for milk. But I don't really like the taste of milk, but I do love cheese. You know, as I said yesterday, didn't know Little Caesars had a stuffed crust. That was a day. Hey, War Mistress. Tanya's here. Because I ate that much cheese, right? Right. So let's get on to our main topic today. I talked a lot about dead games yesterday, and it should be no big confession that I love dead games. I do. I do love dead games. But before we get into my love of dead games, I hate doing this motion because it's what people who aren't funny do to be funny. Before we get into my love of dead games, not because I'm a hobby necromancer or a hobby necrophile, let's talk about what a dead game is. Because if you go online and you talk about certain games, you'll hear in that guy's voice, oh man, that game is dead. Oh, that game is dead. Now, the conversation I had with that store manager yesterday has stuck with me. Because he was talking about, just a quick recap of yesterday, a lot of games are difficult to carry and sell because, he was having a problem with Marvel Crisis Protocol. And he was saying that when it comes to games that have specific IPs, people buy what they like about the RP, or about the IP, and they don't really delve into the rest of the game. So, for games like Marvel Crisis Protocol, or even Star Wars Shatterpoint, you got the people that say, I love the Star Wars. Wrong. Do they love the Star Wars? And I'm posing a question that sounds like a music snob talking to a teenager. But let me cook, all right? Do you love Star Wars or do you love Ewoks? Do you love Star Wars or do you love Luke Skywalker? You know? Because the people that love the Star Wars are like, oh my god, a Star Wars game, I've got to have it. Oh my god, a blue sports jacket just appeared on. I have a red hat. I want to be the very very best, like no one ever was. You see what I'm talking about? And those are the people that buy the everything. And the two types of customers in game stores that buy the everything are really big fans of the game, or should I say, and or people that are playing competitively. That's what the numbers say. You know, I have a buddy that will not let AD&D Second Edition go. He's like, they go forever. Good for him. Seriously, Theko is one of those things that should not be lost to time. It will be lost at my table, but it will not be lost to time. God, I hated Theko. If you guys aren't old Dungeons and Dragons heads, what it stands for is 2-hit armor class 0, because combat in D&D wasn't roll a die and get above their armor class that's clean, elegant, and easy to understand. It was do this algorithmic calculation to make sure that your attack power and your weapon equals 0, because the lower your number, the higher your armor class. Almost like a caliber of bullet. I was not a big fan. I can do it, but I can also talk about valence and chemistry, and those who can don't tend to like it. But what was that? Oh yeah, the people that do I gotta buy all the things, all right? I am a fan of comic book game properties, okay? I love Marvel Crisis Protocol. I love the DC Universe game. I really like the Batman game. If it's starring Marvel or DC Comics, shut up and take my money. I spent a good 2 months with the DC Universe, my mini factory campaign, printing up all the Lantern Corps and the Justice League and the Legion of Doom, and now I've got Solomon Grundy, and since he's an STL file, I can have an entire army of Solomon Grundy born on Monday. I can have so much fun with all that stuff, and I love Hero Clicks. I had to stop buying Hero Clicks because I had like 7 different variations of each character. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do with a dresser drawer full of Wolverines. What am I going to do with all these Wolverines? And the answer was use them as decorations for the cake on my 40th birthday. But when it comes down to a lot of comic stuff, oh man, love you too, Panama Jacks. Have a good flight, and leave a comment in Deckers on the book or on the Discord when you land safely, all right? But what this guy was telling me was once people get the faction that they like, they stop buying stuff. They just stop. And a lot of times, and I've seen this over and over and over again with games in my time, the getting what you want and most people not buying it anymore tends to kill a game. But what does killing a game mean? Well, there's a couple of things. Sometimes a game dies a natural death, all right? And with that, I want to bring up one of my favorite games that if I had the money, I would actually buy a complete playset for, which is, oh God, okay, now I'm looking for a better, there we go. Yeah, there we are. So give me the site. Give me the site. Yeah, look at that. Way too expensive. All right. The Lord of the Rings trading card game from Decipher. Okay. I loved this game. This game was so fun. So fun. All right. And like anything else, this game came in blocks. All right. It came in blocks just like Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, Lorcana, doesn't matter, it came in blocks. But each block was based on the Lord of the Rings movies from Pete Jackson. So, the first set was the Fellowship of the Ring, and it came with 2 other sets. And through that set, you got through the movie. Okay, you got through the Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring. And it did that for the Two Towers, did that for Return of the King, and it had one or two sets afterwards, but at that point they pretty much ran out of footage from the movies and the game stopped getting support. Okay? The game ended. It had a natural death. Another example of that is how can we put yeah, come on, give me no, I'm not looking for all that stuff. Okay, yeah, here we are. Oh, okay, store. I should have pulled this up a lot earlier. Do 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 do. Nope, nope, nope. Prize pack. Oh, there we are. I talked about this just a little bit yesterday, but yeah, there we go. We are talking about here we are, born to be kings, we're the princes of the universe. Highlander, the card game. All right, and this game, if you are that kind of nerd from the 1980s and 1990s, it is literally a game based on the whole Highlander franchise from all 5 movies and the TV show. And your decks are built on immortals. You had 2 options. Okay? 2 options. Hang on. What is this that I got? I don't know. People are... I hope I'm still going. Hang on. Ba-ba-ba-da-da-da. Yeah, exactly. You know, the TV show was amazing. Yep, yep, yep. Oh, yep, yep, yep. But yeah. So this card game, okay, it was part of my cardboard crack. All right. So, yes, including the aliens from Highlander 2. You could build those decks. The guy that was my old gaming mentor, Mr. Lau, actually had decks for everyone, including Michael Ironside. And can we give a shout out to Michael Ironside? Because this is a dude that really, let's face it, he's in so many things as that guy. And you like him every time, whether you're taking his hands and telling him that you'll see him at the party, to trying to train a bunch of high school students to beat up the new girl, to my favorite role he's ever played, our Lord and Savior Darkseid in the Superman animated series and the Justice League Unlimited series. Yeah, he does play the same guy over and over. But you know what? So does Christopher Walken. And we're all afraid to say anything negative about Christopher Walken because he's perfect in every way. Anyway, but yeah, you would build your deck based on an immortal, some of the stuff they had, and the kind of attacks you do. And why do I love these dead games? Well, let's take the cardboard crack, for example. I can go on eBay or go through the store or something and buy everything for that game. I don't have to worry about new cards coming out. I don't have to worry about power creep. I don't really have to worry about a competitive tournament scene where the serious athletes of the game optimize all of the fun out of it, because everyone has access to everything. Okay? And a lot of people are like, oh no, man, that sounds boring. And I want to stop you right there. I just want to stop you right there. Because releasing new stuff, constantly getting support from the company, which is one of the things that determines whether or not a game lives or dies, okay, is not the same as a game being fun. All right? I'm sorry to tell you guys. There may be 100 skins from Monopoly, but it's still Monopoly. And Standard Monopoly is still one of the most popular games on the planet. And yeah, you know, there hasn't been a data slate upgrade for chess for a little while. Okay? It takes the stuff and it puts it in a different category. Okay? It takes it away from being collectible and just turns it into a game that a person can play. Some other games, have come and gone and have died over the time. And I'm not going to lie. Not all dead games are good games. A lot of games did die. They lost their sales. They lost the support from the companies that made them because, quite honestly, they had the wrong formula. One of the games that comes to mind, and this is one that I am so glad, so glad, I did not fall into. Oh, wow. All right, I might actually fall into it now. Was this little guy. This little guy right here. Yeah. Star Wars Armada from Fantasy Flight. Give me some kind of emoji in the chats if you guys remember this game, okay? Star Wars Armada was special. It was capital ship combat between the Empire and the Rebels in them wars for the stars, okay? And real talk, that was serious and kind of weird. All right, serious and kind of weird because how can I put it? It was very indicative of every scene from the Star Wars movies that kind of had my attention, kind of not, but I got to see it played. There was a time over at Blizzard Entertainment where they would have board game and miniatures game nights. I think it was like Tuesdays or stuff. This was years ago. And an employee could always bring in a friend. So I have a lot of friends that work at that company. So they're like, oh no, yeah, come on in. And I saw Star Wars Armada. And I saw these toy-size Star Destroyers and the Corellian Corvettes and all that stuff. I saw that stuff. And I'm like, and exactly how are we doing this? And they had little bitty, almost scale type TIE fighters and X-Wings that would fly out. And I'm like, this looks really cool. And then I saw the price, okay? And I'm like, oh, yeah. So, oh, okay, right here, yeah, this core set. I opened up the page because the core set here on this link that I opened was $170 just for the starter stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that's a little steep. And that game died because of the release of the next game that they had. And that game was interesting because that particular game took away the community that I was hoping to build. And that game here, that game right here, I give to you Star Wars X-Wing. Okay? Now, over in my area, there's hardly anybody playing Star Wars X-Wing. Okay? Really, there's hardly anyone playing that game. And that game is fun. You get to go with the fighters and all that stuff. However, it's closer to a collectible card game with miniatures than it was to a miniatures game that you can whoosh around your ships with. Now, at the same time, there was another game that came out, and that game, I said that I invested my time and my energy in that game at a game store once, and the guy behind the counter only said, "Womp, womp, womp, womp." And that was Star Trek Attack Wing. Same game, same company, but you put together your crew and all that stuff based on... Yeah, wait, which game did you like, War Mistress? Was that Attack Wing or X-Wing? Now, make no mistake, as far as the models themselves... Oh, you're an Attack... All right. If ever we're in the same place, I'll bring the collection because I have them all. I have all of them. At least from the first edition, I have it all. Because I went in hard on Attack Wing. And a lot of folks were like, specifically my gaming groups, They were like, yeah, the X-Wing stuff, it looks better, they have better paint jobs and all that stuff. And yeah, I get to fly an X-Wing. I'm like, dude, I've got the Enterprise D and the Defiant. Come on, man, bring out Birds of Prey. And a lot of us tried to mix the two games because they had the same the same mechanics. Didn't quite go that well, and then the tournament scene really got up, and a lot of people broke the game by having really efficient play that wasn't very fluffy. So, that really killed X-Wing in my area because there was only so far that Fantasy Flight could push it, and it killed Attack Wing entirely because no one played. However, the games are still being published, and they're still there to be bought. Or there are games out there that people did the speculative comic boom thing in, and they bought a whole bunch, and the games aren't really worth that much. Let's see. For the Lord of the Rings card game, here we go. I said Star Trek Attack Wing. And on this site, I don't know what site it is, I just pulled it up. The Attack Wing second edition Federation starter kit is $30, and it's a really nice way to go pew 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 with all your stuff, especially with your gaming clubs and your gaming groups. Is there a big Attack Wing community? I don't know. I've always had a difficult time joining communities, especially online, because I'm not saying it's full of Elon Musks, but when they speak up against me, no one shuts them down. And that's my number one sign to just leave the group. That's what I had to do with Crisis Protocol. It's what I did with Everything Games Workshop for 20 years. Just to wait for the next batch of folks coming in. And I'm like, oh my God, people are nice now. So I haven't actually checked. But if you decide to invest in a dead game, there are a couple of tips that I have for you. Like, make sure that you have someone to play with. That's number one. Number two, you don't have to buy everything unless you get it at massive discounts. Like if you find, if you're in to Highlander and you find a complete playset, which is 3 copies of every card for the Immortal that you love, for $45, go ahead, pick it up. Yeah, go ahead and pick it up. But don't spend hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds getting the materials for dead games, What other dead games did I bring up before? Yeah, Attack Wing, yeah. Lord of the Rings. Again, I am such a huge fan of Lord of the Rings. I was actually looking for a complete playset of the 9 blocks, but the cards themselves aren't really that expensive from different places. Like I'm looking here at Toy Wiz, and yeah, a booster pack is still $6. I mean that's just the way it goes. I may actually go on Amazon and pick up a few starter decks just so that I can show folks how to play at all my friendly local game stores, letting them know how it was like when I was young, and the only other colors in my hair besides blue and gray were every other color that's out there. But yeah, these are kind of the things out there. But again, what is a dead game? Well, when we look at what people say dead games are, it comes down to games you can't find strangers to play with, or games that the companies don't support any longer. And there's a plethora. There's a whole lot of dead games. And you might ask, hey, Solar, why do you like dead games as much as you do? And I'll be like, I already told you. Because they're a lot like board games in the sense that I can buy them, I can have them, and I can play them. Now, in my days of the cardboard crack, I got into Magic the Gathering like everyone else did eventually. And it's exactly the same principle that I'm about to bring up. Being When you get together with your friends who have the cardboard crack addiction to Magic the Gathering, there has been, and if there hasn't been, there will be the day that you decide to go into that 3,500 card box or those 5,000 card boxes that you have and say, hey guys, let's just make a few decks with nothing but commons, you know, and see what you can put together and play your Magic games, put on Men in Black Part 1 in the background, grab a couple of beers, or in my case, a case of ginger ale, and just have a blast, you know? And that's one of the reasons I like dead games, because there's no stress in being good. There's no get good noob. There's no stress about keeping up with the latest point cost or the latest FAQs or the latest erratas. It's much less of a sport and much more of a game, you know? But what do you guys think? Seriously, what is it that you guys think when it comes to this sort of thing? Let me double check something real quick. Looking at my comments on the YouTubes and all that stuff. Yeah, like, what do you guys think? Like, you know what? It warms my heart that you loved Attack Wing, Tanya. I'm guessing you were a Klingon player. I'm guessing you're a Klingon player. Let me know if I'm correct in that. Yeah, I'm straight up Federation, you know, but you know my two factions are Thousand Suns. Kling and Romulan. Yeah, Romulan was gonna be my second call, but yeah, I definitely see you as a Klingon player. Yeah, of course, I'm Federation all the way across the board, just straight up Federation. When they released the other factions, I wanted to bring Klingon in, you know, but my favorite ship from the entire Star Trek franchise before Discovery was the Defiant, you know. Now I'm a Discovery fan. I want that ship. I want the Discovery, and I want the Defiant, and I hope that the Defiant can fit in the Discovery, and that would be awesome. Because, you know, instant teleportation. Who needs warp? Also, the Discovery is a ship that's piloted and operated by mad scientists. It's almost like an asylum in space, and I like that a lot. But yeah, but when it comes down to that, like, I sincerely still have all my Star Trek Attack Wing cards and all my ships, you know. And I gathered up all this stuff before I built the 3D print farm. So I can sit up going, how would Captain Kirk be a captain with half of the staff from Voyager and the other half from Deep Space Nine? You know? Did they have like a Defiant K in Discovery? No, they didn't. You know, I wish they did have a Defiant in Discovery, but I don't remember one. But the Discovery, the ship itself, yeah, that... I want that ship, especially after it becomes sentient. Spoilers. But yeah, if you guys are interested, I did a whole block of reviews on Nerd Soul. That's NERDSOUL, where he and I discussed every episode as they came out every week. And not gonna lie, I did like that there was a USS Nog, right? You know, because Nog did not get enough credit. His dad definitely didn't get enough credit. And if you guys are wondering, yes, Cisco was my captain. He's still my captain, but he has double duties with Captain Pike. Pike is everything I've always thought Star Trek was supposed to be. Or everything that that Star Trek should be. He is my poster boy for the Federation. He had me at radical empathy. So, but yeah, so I mean, you know, when it comes down to dead games, there's nothing wrong with them, especially since if you do get interested in a game that's dead, if it's been dead long enough and you can find it, it always comes at a massive discount. Massive discount, you know? What was it? I think God. So many friendly local game stores have like a whole bunch of dead game stuff that's out there. Generally on the clearance rack. I was able to find God, what was the dead game that I was into for a little while? And I just lost all the pieces in a move. Um God, what was it? Oh no, I didn't lose it. There's a dead board game that's out there. It's no longer in print for right now, called Power Grid. It's from the same makers as Ticket to Ride. It's one of the German board games, except it's about building electrical infrastructure across countries. And I'm like, yeah, I can get into that. Yes, I am that much of a nerd. um, and I still have that game and all the rules and all that stuff. And pulling out the games that a lot of people haven't seen before, like Game of Thrones, the board game. The Song of Ice and Fire from Fantasy Flight. Looking back on it, I realized I'm a much bigger fan of Fantasy Flight than I thought. Um, yeah, that game was put together well. It was really fun. And a lot of games are, just a lot of games don't get traction. Now, I'm not saying remotely. Hey, what's going on, Joshua? Josh Story. Um, I'm not saying a whole lot. I'm not saying that every dead game that's out there is a good game. A lot of games died out for a reason that had everything to do with game mechanics. Okay? Back when I worked at a game store, I found a game about smoking tobacco, and it was just unfun. um, Game of Thrones is a tough one to get into because you only get to play once unless you win. No, no, that's the game of power. That's the game of the game. Yes, you win or you die. All right, but Game of Thrones, the board game. Aha. Well, that's different. Now, thank you for bringing up World of Darkness Changelings, because this opens the door to that other thing. Who was it that talked about Panama Jacks? Panama Jacks talked about it. Dead RPGs. Now, it's funny you mention that because oh my god, it too was from Fantasy Flight. Um, one of my favorite, um, RPGs that was released in the early 2000s. Okay, under the first open license D20 is this right here. Also from Fantasy Flight. It's called Midnight. Okay, and Midnight is essentially D&D 3.0. Yeah, it was 3.0, not 3.5. So very crunchy, very close to Pathfinder kind of thing. And it had quite a few supplements. Fortunately, I still have my hardbound cover, and I have pretty much all of it in PDF now because I had to translate my RPG collection into PDF for most of my collection. Because even though I live in a house by myself, I didn't want to buy that many bookshelves. Between my minis for One Page Rules / Warhammer, my minis for DC Universe / HeroClix, my minis for all the Star Wars games, and then my role-playing books. Yeah, I don't want new friends coming into my house and then going, man, you're a dork, I'm getting out of here. And I'm like, but you haven't seen my microscope in the other room. But here's the thing, all right? World of Darkness Changeling that you bring up from the old World of Darkness, it's all getting a refresh. But since you bring up World of Darkness, I'm not going to be that guy and bring up Trinity and Aberrant. But I will bring up the forgotten World of Darkness RPG. I'm giving you a moment to type out what I'm about to bring up. What is it? The old forgotten RPG. Come on. Hit me. What do we got? Huh? Come on. You guys got to know what I'm talking about. Come on. And not Hunter the Reckoning. Okay, this is an old White Wolf game that was not part of the World of Darkness. That's the hint. That's the hint. Okay, and time is up. I I present to you Exalted. Okay? The White Wolf anime superhero game from 2004. You know, again, this game is dead. Dead, 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 dead. Not part of World of Darkness, Street Fighter? Oh no, this game is so dead. The wiki is great because it has a whole bunch of the other stuff, but yeah, Exalted in and of itself was so, like, it came out at a time that White Wolf was publishing pretty much everything. But this was pre-Avatar The Last Airbender, but it was White Wolf's take on Avatar The Last Airbender. Oh, Zenithate knows. Yeah, Exalted was dope. Especially since it had the mechanics of, oh, well, that's a very, very nice and pragmatic way of doing things. Take 3 dice. That's an awesome way of doing things. Take 30. And I was a big fan of that. And very few groups played them. And you'll find that most of the dead games that you'll be able to find within the gaming spaces, especially if you frequent your friendly local game store, tend to fall within the categories of RPGs. I mean, we're talking Paranoia Second Edition. We're talking Big Eyes Small Mouth, which isn't dead. It's just hard to find groups. But we're talking the Blade Runner RPG, the Doctor Who RPG. We're talking Nobius, or what else was it? Numenera. You might see places that have these things online, but it's a lot like all the people that didn't do something, and then you talk to people and you find out everybody that you come in contact did it. So yeah, I mean, there's so many games out there that are dead games that aren't getting any updates, which means they're not getting any power creep. Hero Quest, yeah. Hero Quest, although Hero Quest is making a comeback. Innomine, oh my god, how can I forget about Innomine? I still run Innomine from Steve Jackson Games. Oh my god, the D666 system is not great. What? Sorry, at what? They bought Hero Quest back thanks to the community. Maybe we'll see a resurgence of these older games. True. And that's not... You think that's an advertisement for games? You've not watched my stream. Dude, stop. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I still run it, so I kind of forget that it's dead. But not exactly, because I know that Steve Jackson Games isn't publishing anything more for it. Kind of like how they stopped publishing the Discworld books for GURPS. So a lot of these things, especially with dead role-playing games, guys, you really get the chance to look at the ways that a lot of the older stuff was done. You get to play the games the way that they came out. Back in, I believe, God, was it the mid-90s or the late 80s, where the DC RPG came out? I believe it was the 90s. Let me pull this up really quick, because there's a new one. There's a new DC Universe game with more modern mechanics and stuff, and I still have to read the book. That might be what I do tonight as I cuddle with my dog. Yes, I said cuddle with my dog. If you guys are dog owners, you get it. If not, shut up. Let's see. DC Universe RPG. Yeah, and this was from West End Games. Okay? WEG. Every time I do one of these shows, I remember exactly how old and how much of a dork I am. Yeah, matter of fact, this game, yeah, This game here is on eBay for 25 bucks or best offer. Okay, and I had this game, and I'm like, yeah, I get to run DC stuff and all that other stuff. And there are so many game mechanics that are based on quipping and kind of the Silver Age. Oh no, yeah, this was the 90s because Aquaman has the claw in his hand. Um, and I do have that in my PDF place somewhere. But you get to see the old ways that a lot of these things run. And it's never terrible. The new one that's here, which only has 4 books, and I don't know if it has a big community because I haven't looked. I've been working all the time. Is of course the DC Adventures RPG. Who is this from? This is from Steve Kinson. I've got the hardcover in the house, and I'm in the studio, and that's a long walk. But yeah, there's a plethora of games that were never popular that kind of died, and one of the other reasons I like dead games, okay, let's stick to RPGs for a minute. One of the reasons I love dead RPGs is because there's so many modules and pre-written adventures that you can literally steal directly from for the games that you're about to play. They're just sitting right there. Every role-playing main book, every player's handbook, every core book has a small adventure that you can play for beginning players. And you can literally just take that story out for your first level players, no matter what role-playing game you're running. Be it Dungeons and Dragons 5e, be it Warhammer Fantasy, be it Exalted, be it the Dresden Files from Evil Hat Games put out for the Fate system. There are so many resources in all this stuff. But when I came up with the topic of dead games, I specifically meant dead miniatures games and dead card games. So I could do long talk on old RPGs and how to get the most bang for your buck, especially since chances are you'll be getting it for free. But when it comes to dead tabletop minis games and dead card games, again, as I've said over and over again, there's no more power creep. There's no more erratas. There's nothing left to catch up with. All of this stuff becomes board games. Static board games. Yes, locked in time. Oh, Battlefleet Gothic. Yes, it does have a pretty active community, but no support from Games Workshop. Although a lot of other companies do the capital ship combat system now, thanks to 3D printing and stuff like that. Heck, even onepagerules has a Battlefleet Gothic analog. I haven't played it because, in truth, I'm not a big fan of capital ship combat. I like big toys, which is why I was looking into Star Wars Armada. Cause I'm sorry, man, their Super Star Destroyer was 18 inches long. It required like four miniature stands to hold the thing up, and I'm like, oh, this is a big boy, But again, not for $75. Sorry, can't. I just can't do that. But a lot of these games, like Battlefleet Gothic, help me out, Zen or Tanya. Does Mordheim still get support from Games Workshop, or is that in that weird Games Workshop limbo? Because Games Workshop never really kills a game, but they do, but they don't, and then every once in a while they sprinkle in like, oh, look, it's a new thing for Blood Bowl. You remember Blood Bowl, right, guys? Okay, all right, so Mordheim is still dead. Yeah, like Inquisitor. No one expects the Inquisition except for everyone in every hive city ever. You see what you guys did? You see what you did? Specifically, you and your friends up there in our great white north, Miss Tanya. Now I know the lore, and I can participate in these conversations, and you're making me feel part of a damn community, and that's itchy. Okay, I'm used to being the fat, smelly kid that people told to go away because they didn't understand the big words. Ah. Okay. All right. I'm back. I'm better. I'm good. We good? Yeah. I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for checking. You can sit down. um, you know. But yeah. So, and again, there was really nothing wrong with Mortheim as a game setting or in their game mechanics, as far as I understand it. And I'm not gonna lie, I really like their terrain. I really do like the Mordheim terrain, just like I like the Necromunda terrain. And yes, my house in Necromunda would be Van Sears because I do love spiders. Am I gonna spend money into that? No, no, no. Again, gotta save my house. But and even after that, I'm up to double digits in miniatures games that I play and give demonstrations for. So, flipping all the way back to the beginning of the show, okay? All the way back. In that diddaloo, 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 that stamina that it takes. Yeah, I stick mostly to skirmish games nowadays because standing around a table for 4 or 5 hours is something that I either can't physically or I can't intellectually do as often as I used to, either because I'll have back pain or my brain just gets fried. And I'm so far down the tobacco hole that I can't go 90 minutes without having to spark one. It's literally a thing. So I have been sticking to skirmish games. I'm hoping to get a few more 1,000-point Warhammer games in. Although, not gonna lie, I prefer Age of Sigmar for gameplay. I am going to do some YouTube content after I get my house squared away. Because I hate to say it, and I need you guys, Tanya, Zan, Josh, tell me it's okay. Tell me it's okay. But I finally have something to add to the conversation about Combat Patrol and I didn't want to, but I have ideas to make Combat Patrol better, not from a tournament or a collector's point of view, but just someone that wants to play. And yeah, believe it or not, I actually spent money on the Spearhead pack. I actually bought the Spearhead box set, and then I bought the Spearhead book off of another player for like $20 because he bought the Scaventide box and didn't plan on doing Spearhead. I've played both. And Spearhead has a lot of the stuff that I think will go very well with Combat Patrol, but it has to be written. It literally has to be written and adapted. And I'm going to throw my hat into that ring. Okay, I've studied games for so long. I'm not a game designer, but I know a couple. So I'm going to rewrite a few rules. I was actually trying to rewrite War Machine Mark III, or I was trying to build my own game based off of the War Machine Mark III rules, in the same way that Halo Flashpoint is built off of Dead Zone. But I think somebody beat me to it, so I'm just like, yeah, I'll do it later. But yeah, so I'm going to do some YouTube content on that, because that is 20 or 30 weeks of content on that one. Primarily because the number one thing that I want, what's really, really important to me as the owner and founder of Back in the Deck Productions, me as a person, me as the former fat kid, and me as the guy that's trying to open up this world of hobbies and games and 3D printing and designing and creativity and painting and sculpting to people who don't have it readily available, specifically in the disenfranchised parts of at least the US. We're talking the hoods and the trailer parks. Is that people have access to playing. And there are a lot of gatekeepers out there still. There are not as many horrible ones, but there's a lot of language out there that can make people feel unwelcomed or make people feel stupid for what they're trying to go on. You know, back in around Warhammer 7th edition, when those guys came into the War Machine community, someone made fun of me for playing my army as a fluff army. And I'm like, yeah, I like the fluff. You know, could I beat him in game? No, he played everything efficiently and he optimized his fun out of the game and laid his fun on whether or not he could win the game. And I'm like, don't shame me for liking what I like. Dude, put that card back in the deck. All right, yeah, I play the Protector of Menoth, which is kind of the Sisters of Battle taken to their next logical step. Well, imagine if the Sisters of Battle in 40k were mixed with blue from Magic the Gathering, and that's what the Protectorate of Menoth was from War Machine. And it was awesome. You know, a lot of stacking shenanigans. But when it comes down to it, a lot of new players are looking for ways to go in, but a lot of them are afraid of being shamed by the people that are there. And there's a lot of fear that they might have made the incorrect decision. It's a natural thing. It's a regular thing. So one of the things I try and do with a lot of dead games is to find the dead games that are very lightweight. The Halo Flashpoints, the one-page rules, you know, the Dungeons and Dragons 5th editions, to let people know that this stuff isn't that difficult. You know, a lot of folks that aren't in these hobbies see the Golden Demon painters and they go, I'll never be able to do that. A lot of people see Critical Role and be like, I'll never be able to do that. And so we're here. We're, as the Decker community, we're here to let people know whatever you're feeling about not being able to do that, that might be true for now, you know, but you don't have to. The barrier to entry is not professional. Yeah, that's right, Zan. Dungeons and Dragons 4th edition was a game. And that's all I have to say about it. It's not that I didn't like it. It's literally that I didn't play it. I couldn't find anyone to play the game with. And I worked at a game store. You know, when 4th edition came out, and I've talked about this often on the show. 4th edition came out as Wizards of the Coast answers to World of Warcraft, thinking, well, if this is how people like their RPGs, let's give them what they want. And Pathfinder said, you do that. Hey, you guys that have been playing, come over here. You know, that's pretty much what it was. Like a Tijuana hawker trying to get you in for a bucket of beer, and people ran to it. You know, honestly, what I know about 4th edition, it made tieflings and dragonborn actual playable races, and I'm down with that. You know, but yes, it was a game. Just like Dungeons and Dragons 3rd edition was a game, and then they realized that 3.5 was the game that they wanted to produce. I still have to see if I can find that copy of the Ultimate Dungeon from AEG. I've talked about it on the show. Let's see if it's on Amazon. And this thing, I know you're not much of a TTRPGer, Tanya, but this thing, oh my god. This thing came out for 3rd edition Dungeons and Dragons. And it was insane. It was absolutely insane. I believe it was called the Ultimate Dungeon or the largest dungeon. It wasn't the deepest dungeon. But this thing. Oh, this thing. Where is that book? World's Largest Dungeon. That's what it was. From AEG in 2004. And this thing, this thing, this game, oh, Rifts. Okay, yeah, Rifts and Cyberpunk. Again, great games. You know, I'm not going to say rest in peace Palladium, because I think they're still publishing. And, you know, Rifts had the playable rules for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and you could do your Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles against your Gundams. Madness! And it was amazing. And again, you can still play these games. This is one of the reasons I'm into role-playing games as much as I am. And when I'm at game stores, I tell people, look, you just need these books and you're good for the next 50 years. As long as you can keep coming up with scenarios, and as long as you have access to comic books, sitcoms, and terrible sci-fi or terrible fantasy, thank you, Tubi, you can play any of these games. But this thing, oh my God. Now, yes, it is $350, okay? And this was made for Dungeons & Dragons 3rd edition. It was from AEG, also known as Alderock Entertainment Group. And yeah, it's on eBay for $350. And you know what? It's actually worth every penny. What? Yes, I know. I'm saying that this is worth $350 because it is a 500-page book, and it is not a Dungeons & Dragons core book. It is 500 pages of a dungeon delve. It had the foldable paper mat that came with it, and when it was folded, the map was it was about half an inch, or God, what is the measurement? I believe 12 millimeters thick. Okay, it was specifically designed for you to take a first level D&D character in the front door, and for your 3rd D&D character to come out at level 20. If you're gonna run a dungeon at all, okay, you can pull it out of this book. It has all the dungeon you'll ever need for any game ever. If you're like me and you play, say, stretching, and you play Esper Genesis, which is Dungeons and Dragons, but science fiction and in space, but not Spelljammer, okay? You can just pull stuff out of that book, put it against the monster manual of any role-playing game you go, and that is it. I remember talking to one of you guys about Warhammer Fantasy. If you want to run them through a hive city in 40K or an underground dungeon sewer system underneath the evil emperor's palace, and you want them there because he made it as an oubliette, and this is where they live now, this book, this book has all the dungeon you'll ever need, like all of it. Yeah, it was so thick, so crunchy, and I didn't buy it because at the time I think it was like $110, and this was when the player's handbook for Dungeons and Dragons was $30. So $30 for the player's handbook and $150 for this dungeon. Oh my God, it was crazy. But, you know, so to recap, okay, um, dead games are games that die 3 deaths. No one plays it anymore. It had terrible mechanics, so it wasn't worth playing. Or it finished. It finished. Like Highlander, like Lord of the Rings, the game finished. There's no more to write for it. There's no more. Decipher thought about continuing Lord of the Rings by going into the Silmarillion, but 90% of the people that played because of the Pete Jackson movies. So, there was no reason. I think they might have released another set when the Hobbit movies came out, but I was already out by that time. And yeah, and again, that 1 hour, the 1 hour game stamina. Remember to take breaks. What's most important, if you find that you only have 1 hour of psychological game stamina or 1 hour of physical game stamina, don't take a break at 68 minutes. Yeah, I see you guys. I know you guys because I'm one of you. Okay? No, take a break at 37 minutes. Just stand up, walk around, do something that's not that RPG. Do something that's not painting. One of the reasons I love watching your streams so much, Tanya, is when you're painting minis, I see you take those breaks. You just put your minis down and you talk to the chat. And that's inspiring for me. Because I'm like, oh my God, she does it. She remembers to do it. So I can remember to do it. And even when I'm doing my painting tutorials, slap, chop all day. Although I like to call it undercoating and grisaille. Taking those breaks is really important, especially if you grew up like I did with hard people. And I mean hard teachers, hard family members that go, you don't get to go to the bathroom until you finish what you start. If that's been beaten into your cells in the way that it has in mine, and yeah, epigenetics is real, you guys can look it up online, papers and papers and papers. Just remember that these are the things that we do for fun. These, if we're at our day jobs that go, you finish what you started, you're suspended without pay. Okay, that jerk isn't in your hobby room unless you bring them with you. Yeah, I love that, Josh. We ain't got time for breaks. Remind me of Jesse Ventura in Predator. I ain't got time to bleed. Really? Because you're bleeding right there. Like, it's running down your arm. There's bleeding. That's what you're doing. So, the bleeding has made time. And breaks, if you don't make time for them, do you got time to duck? We ain't got time to duck. We're men. We're manly men. Exactly. I ain't got time to bleed or duck. I ain't got time to do nothing but take my M60 and randomly spray a jungle. That's all I got time for. Yeah, but, physically it's important to take breaks because if you're painting, yeah, you need to make your eyes refocus because optical insurance is expensive in the United States. You got to take time. Well, one of the things that I do that's happened to me while I've been gone from streaming is I've been doing a lot of work at my day jobs, all 3 of them. Now, when I'm lifting boxes in a cargo container, I can take breaks as often as I like. As long as that container is done by 5:30, if I get too hot, I can take a break. And I promise you, in the summer, I know at least one of you guys use the metric system. So in the summer, those containers get to about 32 to 35 degrees. For the rest of us, that's about 120 and 140 degrees. And I'm lifting 50-pound boxes at 50 to 75 boxes, or 50 to 75 pound boxes. Um, I would say one at a time, but I tend to have to do anywhere from 800 to 1400. My last day of work was 1,437 boxes. Okay, that was last week. And I can take as many breaks as I want. And sometimes I have to remind myself, because I get into that Zen state that we talked about, where you sit down and start painting a miniature, and it's Thursday. And you started on Saturday, you know? So taking breaks is important. you know, no. I'm not built to get ripped. I've still got my dad bod. And my arms, well, I can clean larger pipes now. I can, So I've gone from cleaning the normal Sherlock pipes to a church warden. Yeah, that's about it. um, but honestly, yeah, my back is ripped to shreds. Um, and in my other day job, with the patina company, I've been grinding steel. Okay, we've literally had to brush polish. I think it was like 48 pieces of steel that were larger than my hands can do on screen. Um, and we hired a new person, and I had to remind her to take breaks because she's never done this before. So she doesn't know what it looks like when it's complete. She doesn't know what it looks like when we have to repaint certain stuff. And, literally, I got hired for the patina company because the owner of the company watched me painting miniatures and said, "Oh, you can do that kind of thing." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? I suck at this." And she's like, "No, you don't." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I guess I'll listen to you because you have a degree in art and I have a degree in physics." So if you say my art's okay, I'll believe you because you have eyes to see. But I also have a PhD in backbreaking labor. So I tell all the new people, no, take a break, get a stretch, get hydrated, go to the bathroom, you know. And when I say get hydrated, I don't just mean have some water. I mean have something with salt too. Want some chips? Want some crackers? Hey, kind of a thing. Um, and had I done that a lot when I was younger, I wouldn't be in the condition that I am now. But, you live, you learn, you buy diapers. Um, and finally, communities and clubs. Now, let me know, guys, when it comes to community or clubs, um, with your main gaming group, which is what I would label as a club, the people that you meet with and play with most often. Do you guys meet up to do one particular game? Do you guys have a series of games that you play? What is it that you guys have? So, but either way, if you guys got any questions or comments or anything like that, well, it's simple. All you got to do is pull up your email and type in back in the deck at gmail.com. That's BACKINTHEDECK at gmail.com. Yeah, it's got my Twitter and all that stuff. Let it go. I'm making a new contacts page probably tonight or tomorrow. But you can hit me up on Instagram. I'm still on TikTok, even though it went down for 14 hours, but I don't really post much. And again, you can still join Deckers on the Book if you are part of that wretched hive of scum and villainy known as Facebook. I want to thank you guys for being here. Special shouts out to Tanya, the War Mistress. Y'all need to hit her page and give her a follow and all that jazz. She's one of the people I look up to in the Warhammer community. And one of the reasons, one of the reasons for real that I'm still in, that I decided to be in this hobby, because she's awesome. Major thanks to Neon Arlecchino, and I'm surprised that you're here, but I'm glad that you got the message and that you popped in. Also to our nice new dinosaur, Perkisaurus, and of course, to our Deckers holding it down like gravity, our prime deckers in Xanathades and Neon Arlecchino. If I didn't get to mentioning your name, well, show up more often, and I will. Thank you guys for showing up. Oh, and Josh Story, the CEO of Dungeons Divided, yeah, you guys should actually check out that page and subscribe there. And if you like me, I happen to be playing a character in the D&D game that they're running there. But anyway, guys, I want to thank you guys for showing up. I want to thank you guys for participating. Leave me comments. If you guys want to help us out and help me keep my studio, workshop, and place to live, then hit up the GoFundMe, join the Patreon, and if you guys don't have any money, this is what I need you guys to do. Share the GoFundMe with a few pleasant words about me to your whole social circle, because somebody might actually take pity and buy the terrain that I've actually created, along with subscribing here on Twitch with your Amazon Prime gaming account. Now that actually puts money in the pocket, and it doesn't cost you a penny. Okay, doesn't cost you anything. Just go down to subscribe with your whole thing. Zan would show you, but he's already done it, as has Neon, as all that stuff. Do I offer to do 3D prints? I do not. I do not offer 3D printing services as of yet. Okay. First off comes Flat Pack Realms. And once we get that campaign up and running on its own, then Back in the Deck Productions, the three-dimensional wing, can spread out, okay? But first, I would have to hire more people, and yeah, I'm not on that. But anyway, thank you guys for reaching out, and if anybody tells you that you can't like what you like because of the circumstances of your birth, be it race, religion, creed, gender identity, sexual orientation, neurospice, disability, or your budget, because if you've ever gone to a trailer park, you've probably gone through the hood to get there. You tell those people to take any of those cards and put them back in the deck. This is Solar Gray, the Cinematic Sorcerer, saying thank you, and I will see you next time on the dark side of the room.